is a relatively new slide that some of you may not have seen before if you've seen me speak. What you are looking at there in red is the bulk transmission system. This is the backbone of our electric grid, the 500 kV system. This is like the Route 95, Route 70s of the electric system. Without it, we don't have, regionally, I should say PJM regionally, would never be able to maintain the balance of generation with demand. And so this system moves power within states and between states. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is just by way of example, right? You see Maryland, you see where the B in BG is, we're physically right, was it northwest of there, and you'll see a line. And that is a single 500 kV line. And one of the issues that the grid faces, it's been an issue, is that there's only one line that connects that north to south. And why that is an issue is because Maryland's an importer, and Pennsylvania is actually a huge exporter of energy. There's a couple of states that are huge exporters. Pennsylvania is one of them. And so when you think about the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project, it effectively parallels that existing right-of-way in terms of the serving the electric needs. And the other question that we've received a lot is, how does the 500 kV system, how does a project like the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project serve me, right? How does it keep the lights on here? Because if you look at the 500 kV system, there's not that many substations. Many times a 500 kV line could go 40 miles past your house, drop into a substation, it drops into a lower voltage line, and will actually backtrack. That's just the way our grid is set up. That's the way our planners thought it most efficiently to set the grid up. And what you are looking at on the slide there, it's a little messy, and I'm just going to try to walk you through what you're seeing, is if you see the D in Maryland, and you look just to the right of that, that's that pink or red line, that's that single 500 kV line that you saw on the previous slide, right? Maryland's really, the actual words of Maryland are basically right where we're sitting today. And what you'll see there, if you follow that line along, you'll see it drop into these circles. Those circles, those white circles, represent substations. Those substations are where the energy gets transformed from 500 kV, sometimes to 230 kV, 138 kV, or 115 kV. And those are the smaller transmission lines that will ultimately typically go to smaller substations that ultimately turn that electricity, for lack of a better way of explaining it, into the wood poles that you see on your street. So for example, the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project will drop in at Dalb Substation. Dalb Substation basically serves areas east and west of that, as evidenced by the screen, and north and south as well. And then also, because the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project offloads that existing line, it also helps that line serve that northern circle in the upper right-hand corner, which serves a lot of Baltimore and some in Carroll County as well. So just wanted to walk you through that. Again, these slides will naturally be posted if anybody wants to look at them a little bit deeper. I want to get a little bit into energy pricing. That is, for those that have seen the news on energy prices in and around Maryland, you'll see that there's concern about them going up. And so what PJM does, right, PJM manages the transmission system, but they also run a market. And so very much like the laws of supply and demand really apply to any other product, right? If there's not enough supply, there's too much demand, it tends to drive prices up. And if if that becomes more in equilibrium, it tends to drive prices lower. PJM runs a similar market where people, companies, we buy and sell energy. And what PJM has seen over the last 5 years is historically the Maryland, if you look at BG, for example, you'll see $44 per megawatt hour. That's just a unit of energy. And you'll see, for example, DP&L, which is not too far away, that's Delaware. And you'll see that there's a huge difference in pricing there. And the reason why that is, and again, this shows up in the rates you're paying today, these are historical prices, is this is showing up in the electric bills you see today. But what this is telling us is that there is an imbalance on the system. The market's basically told us, at least over the last 5 years at least, that Maryland is paying more because there's because there's too much what's called congestion on the existing transmission system. For lack of a better way of saying it, there's too much traffic. You can't get cheaper power to where it needs to be, and that's reflected in bills today. And the next slide that I want to walk you through, and again, this actually has received probably more attention than the previous one. If you type in capacity auction, you'll see that those rates have skyrocketed. So to explain what the capacity auction is, and I'll explain why this is relevant to MPRP and what PJM is indicating in terms of projects needed. If you think about the way our system works, and if you think about your own electricity usage, it's not flat. It goes up and down throughout the day. Maybe you use more during the summer because you're turning your air conditioning units on. The reality is PJM needs to plan for enough generation. Also, well, they don't plan for generation, but they need to account for having enough generation available to meet that peak day, right? So they don't need to turn the lights off. Utilities don't need to turn the lights off. And so what PJM does is they run a market that basically pays generators to be available if called upon, not to run, but they run a market to pay generators to be available so that in the few times or maybe many times they're called to run, they're actually available to run. And so PJM ran this auction recently, and what they saw is these rates skyrocket, in some cases 600 to 800%. And these are historically high prices, and these ultimately end up in the bills that ratepayers will be paying. And you could, if I just want to highlight, right, you see BG&E, and specifically Dominion, which is Virginia, right, BG's Maryland, both are seeing historically high capacity auction prices. And so in terms of the actual projects itself, so I talked a little bit about how the grid works, talked about how demand is increasing, the supply to meet that demand is decreasing. So what PJM did is they ran a bid process. They said, hey, we have this issue in 2027 and 2028, and they opened up a bid window. Very much like you might have a contractor do work on your house. You receive multiple bids, multiple quotes. And what they did is they took in a lot of proposals. Even though this says 2022, the bid was actually conducted in 2023 last year. And they effectively awarded a set of projects to fix the issues that they were seeing. And so what you see on the screen there is you see in light green, that's a BGE project. That was really Exxon. There's a couple companies there. You see in blue, that's First Energy, so some of that's Potomac Edison. There's a project in Carroll County. The pink line is the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project. And then you'll see a project coming in from the west in orange, that's NextEra. And then in yellow is Dominion. Next slide, please. And so just to give a little bit of a description of the project itself, I'll touch upon it briefly, is this line connects from Dallas Substation in Frederick County and ultimately connects in Pennsylvania. And on the right-hand side is an example of the type of tower that we would propose, an H-frame.
We appreciate how you feel right now. He has a few more slides, and then we're going to get right to the Q&A.
Yeah, I'll finish. Okay. So let's get I only have a couple more slides, and I'll go through it. So in terms of the routing process, so what you've seen over the last year, we were awarded the project in December of 2023, and what you've seen over the last year is a couple of things. So first things first, we had to define what's called a study area. So the routing process that we have to go through ultimately has us looking at multiple routes. And so what we do is we come up with what's called a study area that shows an area with which we will study routes between point A and point B in Pennsylvania. What we do is we develop alternatives within those routes. We use public available data. We also use input from the public. And then what we do is we collect that feedback and we use a set of criteria to ultimately come up with a route. And so what you've seen us do today, and what we really did starting in October, is we started presenting what's called our proposed route on or about October 18th, and that leads us to where we are today.
Okay, thank you. The point of the slides are to give you the information so the same people don't have to ask the same questions. If you're ready to do a Q&A, we'll go ahead and do a Q&A, and then unfortunately, we'll come back to the slide if there's a specific question about it.
Huh?
We're going to do the Q&A.
Okay.
We'll just settle.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just received the list of folks.
Okay, so, sir, you're fine to put the sign there. If you could just scooch over this way a little bit because the cameras can't see, and then we could see the speaker. Thank you so much. Okay, so just a reminder, I have the list of names here. I'm going to do my best to not butcher names. So I'm going to call up 5 folks at a time to come up to the microphone. It's really important that you speak into the microphone so everyone can hear the question. And again, it's going to be a 2-minute timer. The alarm will go off when the 2 minutes is up. And again, that's just to make sure as many of you can come up to this microphone as possible. Okay? So our first 5 folks, I have Brad Garst, Betsy McFadden, Susan Gordon, Joanne Frederick, and Brandon Hill. If you could come up to the microphone. Just a reminder to say your name so I can mark you off so I know we gave you an opportunity. Here's the microphone right here, and this gentleman will help you.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Betsy McFarland. I live in, thanks. I live in Adamstown in Frederick County. And as I said last night, I'm just going to say what I said again, that I've attended all of these meetings, I've spoken many times, I have submitted my comments to the PSC, I've submitted comments to these folks here at PSCG, and it has gotten me nowhere. So I'm not on a farm. I have 3 acres in Adamstown. My house is in the upper corner here, and as you can see, oh, I'm sorry, that they want to just plow right through the middle of my only 3-acre property and destroy it, including Bennett Creek. So I just want you all to know that PSEG really does not care what any of you have to say tonight. Obviously, they're a corporation. They stand to make a lot of money from this effort. And they proposed NPRP as the quickest and cheapest way to line their own pockets, not what is in the best interest of our communities or our state. Hold on. I only have 2 minutes. So we need to stand together to really defeat this ill-conceived project and this impending devastation that will likely happen if they're allowed to proceed. So there are just 3 things I want to ask every one of you to do, and thank you all so much for being here tonight. First, do not negotiate with PSEG. They may send realtors out to you. They may send agents to you. They will send you letters. They will try to negotiate with you before the PSC process. Do not speak with them. Do not engage at all. Second, please contact the Maryland Public Service Commission if you have not already done so. Submit your comments. Tell them your concerns. They have heard a lot of outcry. They need to continue to hear it as we move into that process. And third, become a member of Stop MPRP, Inc. We are a very strong and growing force. We want all of you with us. And, we do have experts and legal representation that will help us win this fight. So please help us together to kill this project. Thank you.
Mrs. McFarland, thanks for being considerate of the time. I do want to remind everyone that if you didn't have a chance to enter your name for a question, you can still go over to the table near the lobby door and put your name down. Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Susan Gordon. I live in Frederick, Maryland. To PSEG, this is the ruin you will bring. Clear cut a forest, turn a cold water stream with native trout into warm water filled with sediment. Separate historic Black community from its cemetery. Run transmission lines behind the back bedrooms of an entire community, putting their young children at risk of leukemia and their older adults at risk for neurological disorders. Drop the values of homes by half. Make agribusinesses uninsurable. You will also destroy a Buddhist temple, but they can't speak up because they are pacifists. Minimal disruption? No. And here are your threats and lies. If the citizens of Maryland don't submit to MPRP, PJM will cause rolling blackouts, and the entire state of Maryland will turn against those opposing these destructive lies. These transmission lines are for green energy, clean energy. No, they are not. You have snookered the state into thinking so, but they are waking up to the cost involved. These are lines for data centers and AI, two beasts no one knows how to make safe. Half the scientists who created AI have stepped away from it because they see it as a possible threat to human existence. NPR did an entire article on the risks of data centers on October 22nd. There was an article in the New York Times yesterday describing what has happened to Memphis, Tennessee, now that data centers have come to town. Major disruptions in both power and water. Data centers and transmission lines march in and walk out with enormous profits and leave us, the citizens, dangling. Data centers should be providing their own energy and water, and they refuse to do that because they want us, the public, to provide for it.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon. That's 2 minutes.
I have one more thing to say. If your stated concern is providing sufficient energy for the growing demand, then you would work with us to find the best solutions. Your choice is to line your pockets.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon.
Susan, this was you, right?
I'm just going to call up the next 5 folks. Elizabeth Bauer, Nikki Early, Terry Stair, Michelle Jefferson, and Ben Hosiel. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joanne Frederick. I am president of the board of Stop MPRP, Inc. Two follow-up questions from last night. Jason, I think I heard you say that you've had conversations with BG&E. Is that correct?
We are coordinating with BG&E, just like we coordinate with other utilities on these projects. Yes.
And that coordination is for what purpose?
Say that again, I'm sorry?
What's that coordination for?
Coordination is for a couple things. Number one, we wanted to understand more about their projects that they're proposing, but we are also interconnecting with one of their transmission right-of-ways that ultimately feeds the line into Pennsylvania.
Okay, so I did chat with them today, and they said that the only topic of your conversation was interconnection, and you have not yet engaged with them to ask about sharing their right-of-way.
So like I said, we've been coordinating with them, and we did talk to them about the Tri-County Reliability Project to understand that.
Okay, and Roger, we have not had the pleasure of meeting yet. I believe you said yesterday that farmers who lease the land from an owner would also be compensated. Is that correct?
Excuse me. Yeah, if they have a loss, they will be compensated, yes.
And so compensated directly from PSEG, not the landowner that would then be compensated. Is that correct?
Could you repeat that, please?
So if a piece of property is leased to a farmer, you will compensate the landowner for the disruption of that property. And I believe you said last night that you would also compensate the farmer who leases that property for the loss of revenue.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to confirm that PSEG would be paying that, it wouldn't be a pass-through from the landowner.
Anybody that suffers or that, realizes a loss would be compensated directly, yes.
Okay. And have you reached out to those farmers who lease the properties?
I'm sorry?
Have you talked to the farmers who lease properties all across these 3 counties? Have they been notified?
No, we have not made any outreach to to any of the people along the route. The route has just been announced, and we have not made contact with any of the impacted property owners directly.
How do we plan to do that? How do you plan to connect with and notify the farmers who lease the land?
We have retained a land agent company, contract land staff, and they in turn have hired some local land agents. We will be sending a letter, and we'll be reaching out to the property owners directly via letter to begin with.
Understand that, but then the leaseholders, how are you going to contact them? Because their information is not public.
The property owner, I'm assuming, would tell us that there is a lease on the property.
Okay, everybody hear that? Okay. All right, I know I'm over time. One last thing. No amount of information nor any amount of money will make this project acceptable. Thank you.
My name is Brad Garst, and I'm just here for a statement. My statement is there's one man that can make this go away, and that's the Governor Wes Moore. And his silence speaks volumes. Within days of him taking office, he replaced 3 of the 5 on the Public Service Commission. He put his cronies in so he could fast-track his green energy initiative. He closed coal plants in Maryland to import energy from West Virginia from a coal plant. That's green. I mean, this project, 1,200 and some acres of farmland and trees, well, is this green? I mean, come on. Now, after you have replaced those people, we're raping the people of Carroll County to put electricity for data centers in Virginia. When my daughter lives in Culpeper, the energy from Dominion down there, her electric bill, she sent it to me last month, is 15% cheaper than ours now. Why are we providing electricity to Virginia? This is Virginia's problem, not our problem. Then you are raping 3 counties to provide tax revenue to the state of Virginia, because they'll get the tax revenue from the data centers. We don't. And you're going to lose tax revenue in Carroll County and the state of Maryland because of loss of farmland, loss of property values. Every person within eye view of these towers should contest their real estate taxes because your values go down. Now, you can draw your own conclusion about our governor, but my thing is, you know, the silence speaks volumes. I mean, is he being promised something? Is he getting something? I mean, he's not looking out for the people of this state, which after the election last week, he was on the interview saying, I'm going to take care of everybody. Well, he is not taking care of Carroll County. And there's a reason he's on TV every time you see him smiling like a Chessy cat. You think about that. And then the other point I want to make, post your properties. I mean, there's a sign the gentleman's holding for me that says, no trespassing, private property protected by the Second Amendment. And we do have the right to bear arms to protect our property. And if it comes to that, that's on Westmore. Thank you.
Hey, so we're going to try this again. I asked this yesterday with no response. Isn't it true that the entirety of the Windows 3 upgrades are to power data centers?
As PJM
So
has
you're saying
indicated.
no. He says no. His answer was no.
No.
I want
So
to say that.
you're interrupting again.
I've been sitting in on the
Sir.
Transmission Expansion Advisory Commission meetings by PJM. Okay, Sami Abdus-Salam, the head of transmission for PJM, has stated that data centers are the main driving factor of every Windows 3 project, including MPRP. So now I have the question. If you're going to chase eminent domain, do you believe data centers hooking up to the grid is really something that's for the greater good of us?
That's not for us to answer.
Jim, let me just say, 7,500 megawatts, where PJM has said most of that is due to data centers. What I also want to say is that PJM has indicated that it's also due to just over 11,000 megawatts of generators coming offline. So there's two driving needs.
Yes, but there's more data centers coming online every day. PG County is courting data centers. Frederick County is courting data centers. The demand is going to go up, and the main driving factor is data centers. Why will you not acknowledge that?
Because it's also generator retirements per PJM. There's two, right? You need...
Jason is a liar, and I want you all to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Michelle Jefferson. I have one question first. Who is it in Maryland that gave you the green light to do this project?
Thank you for the question. So PJM ultimately awards the project. They're regulated by FERC. They're regulated by the federal government.
Okay, but who in the state of Maryland gave you the... Somebody had to say yes. Who said yes?
So I'm not aware of the entire process that PJM goes through, but we have not filed for a single permit. So technically, Maryland has not... there's still a lot of opportunity for Maryland to opine.
Okay, because I can't stand your lies anymore, and I don't think anybody else in this room. I've been a building permit expediter for 36 years. I know how the permit process works. If you are unable to tell me who it is in this state that has allowed you to get to this point, then you leave me no other choice. Where's that camera? President Trump, we need your help. We can't do this by ourselves. We need your help, sir. They're too blessed cocky. They're too blessed sure. that they're going to push this through. If anybody else had this many people from here and Frederick and Baltimore counties show up and say, oh, hell no, they might step back and say, gee, we might want to take a step back and rethink this, but they are not. They're cramming it down our throats while they're shoving it up our tailpipes, and the only person that can help us is you, President Trump. This doesn't come into my neighborhood, but it comes into my fellow Maryland, my fellow Carroll County and Baltimore and Frederick County, their homes, their farms, their families, their livelihoods, and we need your help to just say no. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson.
Good night. And please don't come back here. We don't want you here anymore. Go home.
Thank you, Michelle. And just more specifically, we have not filed one permit in the state of Maryland, and when we do, that will be at the Public Service Commission.
I'm going to call up the next people. Glenn Van Meter, Chris Myers, Jackie Vaughn, Sandra Skibba, Julianne Martin.
Hi, my name is Nikki Early. You've seen a lot of passion from the residents in Maryland since the word of this project was first released. But here's what you need to know. This is an audience of people who are not just concerned with their own property. This is not an in my own backyard audience. This is an audience who wants to protect our nation and who want to be good stewards of its land. This is an audience who I'm sure have been for their entire lives people who are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. But this project is not for the greater good. You know and we know that this project is a Band-Aid on a gaping, gushing, hemorrhaging wound. The energy needs caused by data centers is too great and will either continue to grow, where we will have these towers everywhere we look, or technology will change and either the energy need won't be as great as it is, or there will be other energy alternatives. You know and we know this project will probably be obsolete in 5 to 10 years. So the sacrifices you're asking us to make are not for the greater good. They are for PSEG's good and no one else's long term. You know and we know that this is a win-win for PSEG. It's just a matter of how big your win will be, not if you will win or not.
Thank you, Ms. Early.
I'm Terry Stair. Our farm on Hughes Shop Road is right under the flight line of the Carroll County Airport, which is a landing zone for EMS. What does the FAA have to say about this?
Great question. So we are definitely aware of that airport, and so it is been one of our focus points. We have yet to file for FAA permits, but our assessment, based on our experience, based on where the route will go, is the line could safely be there near the airport. And we have experience with lines being near airports as well on our own.
Okay, because this extension cord from Pennsylvania to Virginia is going right through our farm. In the history of the Carroll County Airport, many years ago, there were a couple of small plane crashes on our farm. So this is definitely a concern of ours. This line is going to go right through the woods directly behind our house. We have begun to convert our farm into a winery, which we plan to launch next spring. Now, there's going to be a lot of lost revenue because there's a lot of bottles of wine that are not going to be sold because this line is going to go right through a field where we plan to plant some future vines. Who's going to compensate us for the lost revenue while our electric bills are going up? Exactly.
The farming is compatible with the lines. You can grow your grapes.
No.
You can raise your crops.
No.
It happens.
Long term.
Yeah. Farming is compatible.
I'm sorry?
Farming is compatible with these power lines.
No, it is not. It is going right through woods where the men on our farm hunt. We have a fourth generation of children growing up on our farm, and this farm is a legacy to them. And you're destroying it. Our property value is going to go down. It's going to affect the winery probably before we even launch it next year. So,
Thank you, Ms. Farah.
I think I'm good. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bauer, and I'm from Frederick County, and I have been to all but one of your meetings. And I have a very general question for you. During a lot of these meetings, you've been asked questions that you've been unable to answer, and I've heard you say you're taking note. What have you done with those notes, and have you answered those questions for everybody's information?
So if there are, we certainly have more people on the table here with me that could help me answer those questions if folks have them. If there's other questions that quite frankly we're not able to answer, we will certainly look forward to whether it's answering them in future sessions or once we start communicating one-on-one with the property owners as well. But there's more people on stage here with me to help me answer this question. So if there are questions that you have or anyone has, we're going to do our best to answer them.
So there's still a lot of outstanding questions that haven't been answered. So what's our course of action?
So to our understanding, every email at this point, maybe we got a ton last night after Baltimore, but every email we've received on the MPRP or PSEG/MPRP email address, we've answered, right? We have a team that answers those emails. We have an 800 number. There are business cards at the entry and in the back that have the 800 number. My side of the shop answers those emails. So as of Monday, we were entirely caught up. I don't know what happened last night. Been a little busy, but those are the two primary ways where we would communicate and you get an answer back. And if there's a specific question, I'd ask you to email attention Jim, and I promise you we'll get back to you.
How does the rest of the audience get the benefit of the answer?
So you can ask us now?
I mean, if we're asking a question, you're taking note, or if we write an email to you and you're going to respond to it, does everybody see the answer?
We have FAQs on the website, right? And, frequently asked questions, right? Those are the biggest questions. And, when we've done these in the different counties, notably in Frederick twice and in Baltimore once, right? They even came up with their own FAQs, and then we added some ours onto our website based on the elected officials saying, you guys got to answer this question, right? So the only thing I can say for the benefit of everyone would be FAQs on the website or ask us right now. That's why we're here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to call up the next few names. Matt Guilfoyle, Tim Lewis, John Peabody, Whitney Miller, Wendy Rush.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sandra Skiba. I live 10 minutes down the road off of Stone Chapel. Hello, neighbors, friends. If we could possibly wind the slides back to the retiring power plant, or the generators, please. So I looked up, there we, no, back.
It's going to take a while, I'll get there.
That's fine, that's fine. So you said Maryland's retiring a lot of generators faster than we can create new power. I looked it up specifically. Coal generators, there were 9 energy-producing coal plants in Maryland, and 8 of them in a span of the last 6 years were retired. One was only 4 years old. Why are they being shut down if we are in such need of power, especially one so young?
So there's there's definitely a combination of factors. I'm on the transmission side, not the generation side of things. I couldn't tell you exactly why they retire. What I will tell you, though, is generators, generally speaking, in PJM, a lot of them are not regulated. And what that means is they're like private businesses. They could choose when to shut down on their own, and PJM does not have the ability to order generation to be built. What they do is they run a market.
But the governor of Maryland does.
I don't know enough about that.
So I want to read directly from PJM because it'll give you your answer, and I won't be stepping out of line. Generators are retiring in Maryland due to a mixture of economic, which Jason was speaking to, and policy justifications, and without replacement generation in place. And so we have this FAQ also in the back. But
I
there's your
understand
answer.
that. It's going back to the green policy, exactly. If we're shutting down these plants that can clearly still work and putting money towards them to build one just to shut it down in 4 years, I mean, come on.
You're getting to the root of the issue, right?
Yes.
So BG&E customers are paying $800 million to do an RMR, reliability must run, to keep a old, out-of-date, uneconomic coal plant running because its reliability must run. It is
But
a
what
major
about one that's
issue.
4 years old?
Say, Warrior Run? So Warrior Run probably falls into the latter part of that justification from PJM.
Thank you.
That was built in 2000 and shut down recently.
Thank you, Ms. Skiba.
Good. My name's Chris Myers. I live on Mount Venice Road. Right in my front view out of my house is the existing line that runs through Maryland. Only 8 years after moving there, I developed thyroid cancer. The gentleman who bought the property across from me, who the lines actually crisscross his property, only there for 5 or 6 years, he developed a super rare, super aggressive form of leukemia. So is there any connection? I know they say there's no definitive on that, but I find it highly suspect myself. As far as Virginia's needs, pull it from Lake Anna. There's a nuclear plant right there. Get your own power. Destroy your own state. But my bigger question is actually for everybody here. I grew up in Carroll County. After this last election, I saw a superimposed map, and it follows what's happening here. It follows what Martin O'Malley put in place. The redistricting. Carroll County is like the last little pocket, so they have no problem destroying our lives to expand the DC market. I'm pretty sure everybody here, my mother didn't have an indoor bathroom until she was a teenager. She did her homework from an oil lamp. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here that have similar stories. So, we can do without the power. We know how to get by.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
We'll get by with a candle. And we'll grow our own food, and we don't need it. We don't need a data center, none of that. Carroll County doesn't need it.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Glenn Van Meter. I have a small farm just south of New Windsor. America is known for having government by the consent of the people. I had to write my question down. From where do you think you derive the moral authority to prioritize the profits of out-of-state corporations over the property rights, livelihoods, and futures of the people of not only my community, my county, our neighboring counties, but most importantly, our children, like mine who are sitting back there.
So that's a good question. Simply put, Jason explained, right? So FERC regulates PJM. PJM's in charge of maintaining a reliable grid. Their idea was to put out the Window 3 process. We bid, we won. We won the bid from the feds, and now we're coming to you to get more information, and eventually we'll put in an application to the Maryland Public Service Commission where they will say yes or no, because as you said, we have a federal system, top, you go local, and then you go for approval. I understand
sorry.
your frustration. Take your time.
Take your time, sir.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm sorry to bring a pop culture reference into this, but these mouths of Sauron will come up and stand in front of you and wave a paper saying that they have the right, given by somebody else, to take what's our community, our county. We must resist them by any means.
Thank you, Mr. Van Meter.
Okay, this is a very quick promo I'm going to do before I ask them a question.
Ma'am, can you just state your name very quickly? Your name? Jackie? Okay, thank you, Jackie.
Basically, I just wanted to point out that they're going to file an application, right, in a couple months, very soon. And then once they file the application, the Public Service Commission is going to issue a notice. And now, granted, this isn't legal advice. I'm just kind of giving you some factoids to work with. So the Public Service Commission is going to issue a notice, and in that notice is going to have a time frame for you to file a petition to intervene. Now, why is that important? Because the Maryland statute provides at 3106 that if a person timely files, the person may apply to intervene in a proceeding before the commission. The commission shall grant leave to intervene unless the commission concludes that the parties to the proceedings adequately represent the interests of the person seeking to intervene. That is, someone that has a right to already intervene can already represent your interests. Or the issues that the person seeks to raise are irrelevant or immaterial. Now, the importance of this is the intervener has all the rights of a party to a proceeding. So an intervener would have all the rights as PSG has. And in a proceeding before the commission, an individual who is an intervener may represent himself or herself, which obviously sounds pretty overwhelming. But that's what I'm telling you now, so you can all think about that. Now, this is, you can then file with an attorney. If you have a unique interest, you can file without an attorney. You can file and then go get an attorney. But all this will happen very quickly, so I think it's important that you know ahead of time so you can all think about it and what you feel comfortable with and whether you think you do have a unique interest or whether you just want to go through the regular commenting. I think the PSC allows you to comment, so I'm
Ms.
just
Vaughn,
throwing
in
that
the
out
interest
there.
of time, did you have a question? I know you had said you had a question. Did you want a second to ask that?
It's a money question. If I can